ने वही शूट कर दिया नोएडा में योगी जी की सरकार ने, तो यहाँ आ जाएंगे टीवी प्रोडक्शन एटलीस्ट। टीवी प्रोडक्शन आ गया तो धीरे धीरे पैसा आ ही जाएगा।
तो तुम्हें क्या लग रहा है? ओके, मेरे को बताओ थ्योरी क्या है बेसिकली, सरकार बेसिकली पंगा ले रही है बॉलीवुड से, क्यों?
भाई मैं तेरे को बताता हूँ मैंने क्या सुना है इस बारे में।
हाँ वही बता, थ्योरी बताओ मेरे को।
ठीक है,
Awesome, we are live. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Social XR today. I'm a founder of Extended Reality Developers of India, which is India's largest XR community. XR is basically an umbrella term which includes AR, VR, MR, and CR. CR is cinematic reality, MR is mixed reality, AR is augmented reality, and we are going to talk today about these technologies. So these technologies could be used in a lot of ways, and these are used in social as well. So we are going to talk about the social perspective of these technologies. I'm sending invite to you guys, and please come up on stage and talk about how you think that these technologies going to take change how the social scenarios work, how people interact with each other in social settings. So would love to know about your opinions on this. So here with us is Rajesh ji. Rajesh ji, would love to listen to you about your perspectives on social XR, which means VR and AR. Rajesh ji, you there? Okay, we'll get back to you later. I guess you are setting up your mic. We'll next move to Suharsh Verma ji. Suharsh, would love to know your opinions about social XR.
Yeah, I'm not very aware of social XR, but XR is one thing that's been interested in me, so that's the reason I joined.
Okay, Shivlal is with us. Then we'll move to Shivlal. Shivlal, what do you think about social XR? Of course, you are also building something which. I'm sorry, I was on mute. Okay, next we can move to Shivlal. Shivlal, you are also building something which enhance or boost social XR. So you are building a platform which gives a boost to social XR. I don't know at what extent we can talk about that, but would love to know about your opinions on social XR.
Hey, hi, Avi. Thanks for the stage. So, I don't know what I'm building, like what kind of name it will fit in, whether VR, AR, or XR, but it's definitely a kind of 3D experiences on your big display screens. So, where people can synchronize into virtual worlds and have 360-degree audio, sound, and access to virtual. That note, the social layer is what I'm expecting, the most to take off. So, say for example,
Well, इसका कम है यार.
yeah. So the social layer of it is what I am expecting. It'll take off. Especially, I'm more curious to know about how people date. Through social, external reality, because you have virtual avatars where it's a form of self-expression where you can customize your virtual avatar and then express yourself, and there is voice chat. If it helps people make real connections in a very faster way and a shorter time, this is one area that I'm experimenting with, and I think this area will take off. So that's what I'm curious to know about, maybe from others away right now.
You spoke about how it's changing the very romantic relationships, the way people are connecting in social settings in virtual reality. I remember a friend of mine, Fia. She's a very famous YouTuber as well. She traveled from all the way to US to UK to meet her friend, special friend, and she enjoyed with him, and she spent a few weeks. So, and they met only on VR chat and things like these sort of social platforms. So it's amazing to see that these sort of relations people are making on with in these sort of social settings. Govind is here with us. Govind would love to know about your opinions on social XR. Govind is on mute. We can move to Sachin ji. Sachin would love to know what you think about social XR.
Avi,
Yeah.
can you quickly make me a moderator? I'll open up the room for you.
Yes, I have made it. Thanks, Govind, for opening the room. Next, we have Sachin ji. Sachin ji would love to know about your opinions on social XR. I can see Arijit Da in the speakers in the down section. So, Arijit Da, you are mostly invited.
No, bro, I'm in office. I can't talk right now. Okay,
No worries, Sachin ji.
I just came for to listen.
No worries, Sachin ji. We'll move to Arijit Da. Arijit Da is also the founder of one of the first Indian video game companies. So I'm very delighted that he's on the joining us with the conversation. Arijit Da.
Thank you so much, Avi. So I'm delighted to see your group. I just thought to check out, but yeah, I'm willing to be in a more of a listening mode. I can see a lot of people probably talking and sharing their insights. So, is there any specific agenda for today, or
Yeah,
you want?
so it's an unplanned conversation. So I'm going to it was not scheduled, and we are just casually talking about social XR and how virtual reality and augmented reality is building and giving us a social platform to connect with each other. And Arijit, you can also talk about World Leader Summit as that the dates are getting closer. There are a lot of entrepreneurs in the conversation as well, so they can also, if they are interested, they can also submit their interests.
Yeah. So, okay, not a problem. Um, so, as Avi asked about World Leaders Summit, so World Leaders Summit is actually a global community that we started during pandemic. To give you my background, I'm Arijit. Started India's probably one of the oldest game development studio back in 1998. So our USP is mainly taking real actor and actress as a game character. We converted till date successfully around 300 plus fresh actor models, actresses from various part of the world, and we created our own universe of superheroes and created few bit of game title out of it. While running my venture, I started giving back to the community since 2008 onwards, working directly with multiple number of incubators and accelerators, and invited as an angel investor into a couple of angel syndicates in my life. After doing a few bit of deals, like starting off one venture capital fund based out of China, and then helping three different angel funds to start their operation from US and India. A couple of us, we decided that we'll be doing some kind of activity and filling the gap with good intention, market connect, and fundraising activity. That's why we floated our own business ecosystem, and World Data Summit is one of the key event for that particular business ecosystem that we have. So World Data Summit in 2020, December 2020, we had around 126 speakers from 90 plus countries last year. Avi was, of course, one of the speakers over there representing India on the XR front. This year, we'll be having it in November 2021 from 5th to 9th. With at the moment, we have around 120 speakers. We already closed the speaker invitation. But yeah, I mean, anyone who is willing to join the summit, they are most welcome. They can attend, they can network, they can communicate with other panelists and other attendees. And last year we gave, as per my memory goes, around 30 plus industry awards. This year the same thing is happening, and we'll be having a pitching session that's going to happen in Dubai itself on a physical meetup end of November after the online summit is over. So there is a link in the website in World Data Summit. It's called Award and Investor Pitch. If anybody of you feel that you want to fill up that, kindly do so. We'll be happy and glad to take it forward. And for your community, we are about to launch our own accelerator. And of course, we did something amazing. You will get to know once it is there in the, of course, in the news and the press news. Probably that will help a lot of our good friends and startups in the community. So just wait for that and allow me to put that news after it is done. I'm not going to break that magic in front of everyone before it is declared, but just wait for the same. You will be amazed the kind of thing that we have been creating, and it will be there in front of everyone. To summarize, anybody who is looking for market connect, anybody who is looking for probably good fundraise, or maybe finding the right kind of partner, we are always there. You can find me in Google. You can type my name, Arijit, ARIGIT, space Bhattacharya, BHATTACHARYY. Feel free to connect. We'll be happy to help.
Thanks, Arijit Da. It was really amazing listening you. And yeah, if anyone is interested in World Leaders Summit and want to apply for it, Arijit Da could the link related to Arijit Da. They can ping me or Arijit Da himself. Next, I'm gonna talk about a little bit more on social XR. All right. So after that, if you have some questions or any sort of queries, or if you want to share your opinions on that, please come up on the stage and we'll talk about it. Okay. So I'm going to talk about social XR. So there are plenty of platforms. You recently have heard of the Facebook's platform, which is the workspace. They recently talked about that, how they are changing the works. And so basically Facebook built a platform called Horizon. And with Horizon, Facebook's idea is to get 1 million people in virtual reality. So that's another kind of social media Facebook is building, which is completely virtual, where you become an avatar and attend and meet in a social settings with people. And the setting could be in every possible way. Like you can meet somebody in a club, you can meet somebody in an office location, you can meet somebody in a party. There are plenty of ways to meet them. So the Facebook version of social XR is called Horizon, but there is not just one, there are many. It sort of started with VR chat, if you are aware of what VR chat is. So VR chat is basically an open source platform where people meet in virtual reality. And if you think that you must require a VR headset to experience these social platforms where people meet together and talk to each other, so then it's not the complete story, because there is a platform called AltSpace VR, and AltSpace VR is recently acquired by Microsoft. It's a great platform. There are many conferences being happened in AltSpace VR, including the Pitbull show I attended. There are several shows I did in ArtSpace VR. So yeah, you can take advantage of ArtSpace VR in several ways. And best thing about ArtSpace VR is you can join at ArtSpace VR conversations in several ways using your mobile phone, using your web platforms. So yeah, it's not just limited to virtual reality headsets, but eventually the idea is to meet everyone with all your expression, with all your gestures, all your body language. You bring everything in, bring your whole personality in, and you meet people in social VR. So now, if you have any questions related to social VR, or if you have attended some sort of meetings, if you want to share these sort of experiences, I would love to listen to it. I would personally would like to share one more experiences. So I remember in 2019 I shared a podcast which was completely in VR chat, and that was with a very good friend of mine, and we hosted. Her name was VR Girl. Her character name, and we she joined us from Chicago, and I was there in from India, Kolkata, and we had a great conversation. We had a 1 hour long show. After that, we danced together in our avatar formats. So it was really enjoying, and that conversation is still one of the best performing conversations on my YouTube platform. So it was literally the India's first VR podcast, you would say. So I would love to listen to your experiences as well. And Shivlal is here. Shivlal would love to listen to you, and let's invite some more people if they want to join and share their own experiences, or they want to ask their questions. So yeah, we have some good people here. Rahul is here, and there are plenty of people who are working in AR and VR space, so we would love to listen to them. Hi, hi Rahul, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, do you want
How's
to
it
go
going?
next? Do you want to talk about social VR and go next?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm just getting my headset in place. Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah, I, I would love to have a nice alt space VR experience with you all, and then we can all gather and also discuss what was missing there or what could have been done better. Apart from that, I've hung out in the alt space VR world for a few hours. It looks pretty cool. Tried to uh, Also Roblox. I've tried Roblox. Roblox was where people are creating these amazing monetizable worlds, right? What do you think of that? Roblox, Roblox. Some of these platforms are also working with your keyboard and mouse until you get an actual headset. So I think that is great for getting people on board, right? What is Rec Room all about? What did you do in Rec Room? Certainly. When I was trying Roblox, I saw that some people have created a whole city, a mini city where you are running around. You can take someone's car and just go. And then they also have this strange feature that call your friend for help. It's like you're a part of a gang member or something, and you call your friends and then you take over the situation. It was quite fun.
Yeah, I totally get it. So I guess I have seen videos of this, but I have never personally experienced how it's be. So what you love about this experience?
What I love is that anyone can come in and create a whole new world, and they can use the existing assets or they can create their own assets. And obviously, the next stage of this is to be able to monetize your efforts, right? In Roblox, you have this Robux currency also. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but that will translate into fiat at some point that you can sell off and exit. Uh, the other thing is that what if we can create new kinds of experiences that we cannot do in the traditional world? A lot of things are going on. A new kind of a school or a place to make hardware, or maybe you're teaching certain values to people. I don't know, like something that we cannot do in the existing world right now.
Of course, that is what we are for, doing things which you cannot do in normal scenarios, right? So I remember what I love about Rec Room is that Rec Room is a platform where you can create rooms and you can create all sort of rooms. So I did a podcast in Rec Room where I created the entire set, which was closely related to how Kapil Sharma show or the late night show looks like. There were multiple places where we can sit and talk to our guests. There were multiple places where you can go and take pictures, good looking pictures. There was a stage, and there was also a costume. So you can have a costume like Iron Man or Captain America. I had a friend of mine who is very much into Captain America. So I made him wear the Captain America costume and I wore the Iron Man one, of course. So yeah, it was pretty amazing. And best thing about Rec Room is that you can design your room in your own way, as well as you can code it. So it provides a way to code into virtual reality, and you can design basic circuits with the basic conditions, and that is like that really excites me because I really believe the virtual reality coding is the next future of how people program.
Yeah, very exciting. Not only coding, but also creating art together and then monetizing it. Of course, coding opens up a whole new world entirely. But I think that we will still have restrictions on the kind of code that will be allowed to run in them or the scripting languages that it will support at that point. Let's see how it works out.
Yeah, I have seen people building entire working computers in Minecraft. So of course these sort of restrictions are there, but a genius mind and an unlimited amount of efforts over a period of time literally does create almost everything with simplest of logic. So if you look at logic gates, they are like simplest of things, right? So something similar, you can have that in there as well, but on a little higher level as well. Like you have a lot of existing examples as well, which you can reuse. If you have the engineering mindset, if you have the capabilities, I believe a lot of people can build a lot of good experiences with that. So I do recommend checking out some of the Rec Room tutorials where people design things, and it's amazing in how they program it.
There's one, thanks for sharing that. There's one thing related to see how dating apps work. Today on your phone, they are digital versions of a dating world, right? But in the virtual world, you can actually hang out with a date and you can never meet them physically, at least for first few months. Maybe that's also a safety factor that you add there. And once it translates into a good relationship, then you can meet them physically. Or the other extreme is like, suppose you're dating someone from another country or continent, right? So at that point, you are forming a relationship across the world, and maybe you can raise a baby in the virtual world, a virtual baby. So I was talking about this to some psychologists and thinking that is this a correct direction to go in, or are we going to face bad consequences of it?
I
I
guess
was just
that is an
gathering.
insane idea to raise a baby in virtual life. Yeah, it's insane. So I was also thinking about the future of how the work culture gonna look like. Of course, we have seen how work from home looks like in 2020. Of course, work from home existed and all these Zoom platforms and everything was it, but it was literally put into mass perspective and everybody made complete use of it, and somehow they have to do it. That was the only way possible, and companies were profitable. People made actually uh, people were more productive and profitable using these methods. So now a lot of companies are coming into this perspective. Like if you talk about spatial, the metaverse was there from 2016, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, and after that spatial come into the picture, and spatial is such a beautiful tool. And then Microsoft Mesh announced its own version, and now recently the workspaces from Facebook. So many companies are targeting towards how the work culture gonna look like. So what is your opinion on this, Rahul?
Certainly, I'm very excited to have fully functional, cross-functional teams sitting across a desk, and physically they are situated across
Yes.
the world, but in this virtual world they're sitting at the same desk and moving work items between each other, giving expert advice, etc. The other thing, one of the concerns I have is that these giant tech companies, right? What they're trying to do is not only they want to create the experience, but they also want to lock you into their platform in some way. So they want to push their device also. And I think that for a virtual world to be truly free, it has to be sort of device agnostic in a way. So that's my 2 cents.
I totally got your point. I can totally understand. So next we have Saurabh. Saurabh would love to know about your perspectives on social VR and how virtual reality and augmented reality is changing the way we connect in social scenarios. If you have any experiences, would love to know.
Yeah, sure. So, like I was a pretty early adopter of VR, right? So when initial like Oculus Rift came out, like I bought one of the earliest versions, and I've been playing around, and so with the for example the games and the software in the Oculus store, and then later on the Steam VR store, etc. Right, and so a couple of things that I just wanted to add. One thing that you were speaking about earlier about people being able to build computers inside Minecraft, etc. Right, and so yeah, so I don't know about Rec Room specifically because I haven't checked it out yet, but yeah, because of the principle of Turing equivalence, right? Like any system which is Turing complete, right, which can do the basic operations that a Turing machine can, is theoretically equivalent to any other Turing machine, right? So then anything that can be computed by any computer can also be programmed and simulated using that system, right? And Turing completeness needn't even be digital, right? Even like a physical mechanical system, if it is Turing complete, you can essentially simulate any other computer or any other Turing complete system on it, right? So that's one thing that I wanted to mention, and that is why like people are able to build mini computers inside of Minecraft, right? So that was one of the points, and the other point was about what Rahul was saying about the vendor lock-in, right? So that's definitely there, and so for example, like I have Sony VR and I have Oculus, but so initially that was the case, right? Where Sony had its own game store and own games, and Oculus had its own games. But then companies like Steam, right, and with Steam VR, so they are doing a good job, right? I'm not sure if Steam's hardware is also now available, but Steam VR games also like run through Oculus Rift and through other like headsets, right? So that way there are these third party companies which may or may not have their own hardware, but by virtue of being game stores, their interests are in being able to let their software be played on as many different platforms as possible. So that way, those will probably serve as the bridge, which will help break this vendor lock-in that typically the hardware vendors want. So that's a couple of things, and thirdly, yeah, like about the work places, right? I'm really excited about that because a lot of this remote working during the pandemic, that has really led to degradation in like the in-person interaction between people, right? Like often it's just voice calls, or even if it is video calls, right? It's just a flat thing, and you just keep looking at your own face all the time, and it has been shown in studies that that is very stressful for people. So in that sense, a VR space, even after the pandemic, right, where if different teams in the world are doing remote work, and they can get together in the same VR space, and collaborate together in a 3D space, and write on the same virtual whiteboard, right? So that would be amazing, and I really look forward to that kind of technology becoming more widely used. So yeah, those were just the points I wanted to add. Thanks.
One major thing you mentioned is how the cross-platform is being supported within VR community as well now. So we can see a lot of products which are being built for Steam, but now supported by Oculus. And it's amazing because Oculus is right now supporting the biggest amount of libraries in terms of games, in terms of experiences. You can make separate and independent experiences for Quest as well. So also, Saurabh, so as you mentioned, you have experience with Sony's VR as well as the Sony VR. Would love to know what is the social scenario, social support on Sony VR. So, is there any sort of simulation? Because I am not aware of it. If that provides some sort of social setting in Sony VR.
So honestly, I haven't tried any social this thing. I just use my like PlayStation for doing like offline gaming, right? Like I don't do online gaming or MMORPGs or anything like that. So personally, I haven't tried any of the social features. I just keep those features logged, right? Like don't let other people communicate with me and things like that. So honestly, I haven't explored that, but I wouldn't be surprised that if there are apps that allow you to interact with you. Allow you to interact with others socially.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks for letting us know about these beautiful topics. You mentioned some great details like Turing complete machines. You mentioned great details like how cross-platform is so much important. These are some amazing aspects, and we would love to talk to you about some of the other things as well. Like you have written a lot of things. You are also into flying aircraft and aviation. So have you ever experienced some sort of VR simulator when it comes to flying simulators? So, what was your experience and how close you rated to flying a real craft versus the VR crafts?
Yeah, so like I essentially was working towards getting my private pilot's license. So I was flying like Cessna 172 aircrafts, and then as you can imagine, right, the per hour rental for the craft and the fuel, etc., is like pretty expensive. So to augment that, even like a lot of websites online, etc., they recommended using Microsoft Flight Simulator to augment my actual training, right? And so this was like slightly before the VR age. So at that point, like I didn't have a VR headset, but I built the closest thing that I could equivalent to it, right? So I had three monitors, and so the front monitor would show the front windscreen of my plane, and the left and the right monitors would show the left and the right windows of my plane, right? So if I put those three monitors at a particular angle, so it almost simulated like the cockpit of the aircraft. And then I bought the various hardware, right? The yoke, the rudder pedals, and so those are available from various companies. The basically simulators for those, and those I could attach to my table. And then I bought a head tracker at that time. So basically it's a camera that sits on top of your monitor, and then you have another thing that you wear on your head. And so as you shift your head around, so it will change the view on the monitor to reflect whichever direction that you're looking. So in that sense, I was pretty happy with that setup, and like I could do pretty much quite a bit of practice at home for flying, and that was pretty real, right? So Microsoft Flight Simulator for like the last couple of decades has been like a really good software for simulating like real flying experience. And also like whatever experience that you felt flying a Cessna in Microsoft Flight Simulator, right? When you actually go and sit in the cockpit, like everything almost looks like the same. And but the only like bad habit that I got out of it is that in the real world, when you're flying, you're supposed to like keep especially using VFR, right? Visual flight rules, not instrument flying, right? But in visual flight rules, you are supposed to keep looking outside and keep scanning the horizon for other aircrafts, right, or any other dangers. Whereas when you are inside the game, like there's really not much to see outside. So you typically tend to keep looking at your various gauges in the dashboard and try to keep your nose in a particular angle and try to keep monitoring your speed, etc. So that was like a bad habit which translated when I would fly the real plane. Instead of looking outside, like I would always keep looking at the same dials in my dashboard in the real plane also, right? And my the instructor, he would repeatedly like call me out on it. So yeah, apart from that, like it was a pretty what should I say, a pretty close experience to flying a real aircraft in that sense. Yeah.
Hey, I just want to mention that probably in that software they could simulate other planes or birds or something so that the pilot is not distracted and looking at the dials.
Yeah, I'm sure Microsoft Flight Simulator has those settings, but the level of fear that you feel in the real world, right, where you should be constantly scanning the skyline for dangers, you don't have that sense of danger when you know you're playing a game, right? Like I have crashed my Cessna within my game hundreds of times, right? Like, but I can only do it once in my life in the real world, so it's not the same level of stakes, right?
That's amazing. I guess these are some amazing insights which you have shared. I'm a big fan of Microsoft Flight Simulator and the way they have so many planes to try out with, and they have so much complex weather system, which is actually the real world's weather system. They have almost replicated the entire Earth. It's like the most complicated code ever built on top of real world scenarios. So they have everything, like they have the real geometries. They have scanned every data from the maps and then re-figured it out. I guess they use a lot of photogrammetry for it too, but mostly it's created with algorithms itself. So it's an amazing fine simulator, and I love it too.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, like a few weeks back, I read somewhere that till now it was only available on the PC, right? But now it's going to be available, or it's already close to being available on the Xbox. So it's finally coming to the consoles, right? So that will be an amazing thing for another generation of gamers.
That is fantastic. And the study that Microsoft showed that 80% of people fly to just one location, and that location is their home. They want to see how their home gonna look like from above and everything.
Yeah, definitely. Like even like apart from flight simulators, right? When like I use Google Street View in my VR, right? So my first instinct is to like go to New York City and look at the building in which I used to live in New York, right? So yeah, I think that's a common human uh, you know behavior throughout
Same
our
with me.
society.
I remember back in 2016 with my wife when I first tried the Google Maps version of in VR. You can literally fly around all over Earth using that particular version. And I went to my host home to see that how the things look like, and it's literally you feel like Superman, and then you are flying above Earth and everything.
And apart from that, like another amazing experience for me in VR has been flying, like simulating flying in space. So especially with software like Space Engine. So Space Engine was has been a free open source software available for the PC for quite a long time now, and now I think they have a paid version launched in the Steam store, which supports VR, and it is absolutely amazing to be able to Space Engine actually takes data from all the real astronomical object catalogs, and it has all the galaxies and whatever is actually visible from the Earth, right, through like the Hubble and all these telescopes. So, and you can actually click on any of those points and actually fly to those objects, and of course most of the stars and data available are within our own galaxy, right? So you can fly to all these objects around within the Milky Way, or like between intergalactic space, right? And you can adjust your speed. So that has been a crazy experience. Also, like a lot of for a long time, like I had no context about where the Earth was in respect to the larger universe, right? But once I got that software, I read more about it, and I realized that we are we are part of the Milky Way, and Milky Way is part of this local group cluster of galaxies that in turn is part of the what Pegasus or whatever, sorry, Pisces cluster that is part of the Lanaika supercluster, etc. Right, bigger and bigger structures in the universe which we are part of, and you can actually simulate flying around all those structure and seeing like where exactly Earth lies with in respect to the rest of the universe, right? And also in this I'd like to mention this game Elite Dangerous, right? And so that has also been around for a long time, but now that it is also available in VR, so that simulates I think the whole galaxy of ours, and it is so amazingly realistic, right? Like you can keep flying in that game and doing all your missions, and you'll never ever meet another player, right? Just like in real space, that unless you visit a planet or or a satellite that's frequented by people, space is so big that you can keep going randomly in one direction. You'll never ever meet another body unless you target something, right? So so that is that it's both. It's very interesting and realistic, but it's also like it, you feel how horrifying lonely we are in this, and how big the galaxy and the universe are, right? Like if you don't find a particular planet, or if you could like lose track of a planet where there are people, you'll never ever meet or see anyone. You can keep flying in any direction, you'll never find another object, right? So yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah,
You know
sort of. I
what's more
can.
crazy?
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
go
Sorry,
ahead.
Avi. You know what's more crazy is that 8 billion of us are talking to each other and asking, are we alone in
Yeah, of course. So we are obviously not alone here, right? But outside of Earth, are we the only planet in the universe? That's essentially the question, right? But and uh, and also about that, what another thing that I wanted to say was anyway, I've lost my train of thought. So yeah, if I remember later, I'll
I can see a lot of common interest there, because I remember I have read about so many stuff. I'm very much into astronomy and astrophysics. So I remember playing a lot with all sort of 2D universe sandboxes. But when it comes to 3D and virtual reality, I remember immersing myself with ISIS and uh, ISS, sorry, and yeah, looking into to Earth from that particular window area where the astronauts go, and traveling inside all those modules, looking at all those information, all those small packets of area in which astronauts fit themselves, like literally amazing. And it saves in your memory like experience itself, like you have been there, instead of like reading a book or watching a documentary about it. It's just VR is just a different experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, in fact, like a lot of times in the US, right, when I was going to a new place, I would first look at the place in street view and check out where all the parking lots are or garages are, etc. Right? And then when I was actually driving there for the first time, it would be such a feeling of deja vu because my brain would be saying that everything, right? Like after this left turn, there is a garage over there, and I have to park it. But physically, I'm going there for the first time, right? It was like a most crazy feeling. And the other thing, yeah, I just remembered. So another amazing thing while flying in space in VR was that on in real life on planet Earth, right? We don't have any very big objects nearby, right? So something like the moon and the sun, they are very big, but they are very far away from us. So we just see them as small discs, right? But when you're in VR and you're flying, so for example, you are doing like faster than light, whatever travel in the VR game, and then you jump out of FTL and you are like next to a big star, right? And you have never seen anything that big that close to you in the real world, but there in that 3D world within VR, right? It looks very real, but seeing something so big so close to you, like it's almost a horrifying feeling, right? The first time I saw like such a big thing next to me, that like you look in all directions and it wouldn't end, right? So that was a very overwhelming feeling. That yeah, so yeah, that was the one thing.
Yeah, the great emptiness of universe and everything. Every astronaut talk about it. Every astronaut talk about the weird lights they observe sometimes, which is because of nearby galaxies and how radiation works and everything. Of course, you are missing that sense, but you can feel still a lot of a sense of how the larger objects and yeah, these bodies which are impractically insane, and then you are never gonna get in front of one of these in maybe your lifetime if Richard Branson is doing good job, but still it's expensive. So it's amazing to yeah, confront these sort of objects within virtual reality. And the cool part is a lot of these experiences are social as well. So if you talk about like flying and being in the body of a robot, there's a game I can remember which is Echo VR. If you have Echo Arena, Echo VR, these sort of games, so in which you play with a disc. It's a disc throwing game, and you play it with in a social settings. A lot of it's a very competitive game. It's very hard to score with them unless you are Mark Zuckerberg yourself. So yeah, it's a beautiful game, and I love how real it feels. The very acceleration. It's like you are in the deep space and you are trying to accelerate yourself. The very boosters feels like exactly the same how the thrust should feel like, and it's amazing how the anti-gravity should feel like. It's a beautiful game.
Absolutely. And another thing about VR that you maybe you might not find this appropriate to discuss here, but is of course like VR porn, right? And that is another big use case. And so I'll not go much into it, right, for obvious reasons. But it's amazing that what your mind can trick you into, right? So when you within 3D, when you see a person that close to you, right, for some reason you kind of feel their breath on your skin, right? Even though that person is not really there, but your mind like starts tricking you into thinking that you start feeling the breath and the heat radiating from somebody next to you when they are actually not there. So that's another crazy feeling, like for example in watching VR porn, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
but anyway,
it's a
I'll
very
not go into this
uh,
topic.
I can
I
see
would
how
I
this
would
even evolving. If you look at the some of the things that Japan is building related to how we are porn industry is going, they are building a lot of these robotic and networking stuff, which one end could be at one side and the another end could be another side, and you can do a lot of things with that.
Yeah. It's only limited by imagination what you can do with it.
And just to steer you guys out of this conversation, like the flexibility of working with your peers, right? Suppose on that day you don't feel like working. So in the virtual world, you can just make some arrangement and go away and enjoy with your real family. And like people, we can create a culture of work where people are free to engage whenever they want to, right?
Absolutely. I remember a conversation how the Oculus founder talks about it. That he said in next 20 years, what I see that the way how societies are formed, the way how cities are built, it's also going to be changed with virtual reality and work from home, and the power to visit anywhere and meet anyone anytime. So the way how cities are built is basically you are in city because your work is closely related to major cities, and you have to meet people all the time, and that's why you live there, that's why you work there, and people are gonna move to their hometowns, and cities gonna get abandoned. So that's how it could change the very social structure in upcoming future. I'm sure it's going to be productive. I'm sure it's going to be very good, and we're going to find some great solutions. But if you look at this, you hire offices, and the offices are empty in night, and you pay a lot of rent to your home, but the rooms are empty in day. So it makes more sense to live in your own homes, at your hometowns, and work from anywhere possible.
Sorry,
Am I audible? Yeah, Rahul, go ahead.
yes, now.
Are we here on mute again?
Yeah, I guess I was finished. I was I cut in between?
Yes, towards the
Yeah,
end.
it seemed maybe like your last sentence got cut abruptly, right?
Okay, okay, Rahul, go ahead. I'll check my connection a bit.
I don't know, like what I want to understand is apart from even exploring space, there are so many things here, right here on Earth only, that we can make a completely new interaction out of. For example, if people are swimming together in a virtual pool, or if they are partying at a beach, and if they go on a real holiday, one of the things that I had built a few years ago was to take my grandparents, parents, and all who are living in different countries on a common journey to so that going up a mountain and then they chase the mountain. That was my thought process involved. But then I saw that they are not really getting it. They think it's not real. But if you immerse them, like this hardware, which you guys are talking about, right? Once they actually feel inside that world, when they exist there, maybe that will trigger them. But it's a long dream because everyone needs to have that kind of a headset as a normal day.
Yeah, and the other thing is the video resolution limitation right now, right? That even like the 4K video, when stretched out all 360 degrees around you, right, is still pretty grainy. So, but once like 8K or 16K videos become common, right? Maybe like within VR, that will look like standard HD, right? So that should help get rid of that feeling of uh, that help with the suspension of disbelief, right? So yeah.
Also, yeah, also you can say that maybe people above 50 may never get it. You can just safely assume that now it's the first generation kids who grew up in digital worlds. They will get a very easy hang of what is going to happen. And the kind of collaboration that they will see is
I completely agree. The children who grow up in the world with all these things already available, right? For them, it is just part of life. Whereas older people have to adapt to it, right? So there's certainly more resistance there. Although, like my mother, right? She's almost 70 years now, but she really enjoys like whenever I let her, use my VR headset and see different cities in a street view 3D, right? So she seems to enjoy that. So I guess some use cases can be applied to anyone.
certainly, certainly. We could really benefit if two or three good companies accelerate their production in India from the VR hardware perspective. But I understand that there are a lot of challenges there, which Avi has described in great detail.
Yeah, so sorry, I wasn't there earlier, so these points might have been added earlier, right? But the biggest challenge that I faced was obviously motion sickness because your eyes are telling you that you are moving, whereas your ears, the cochlea and the balance mechanism says that you're just sitting, right? And that dissonance after a while. So often, like I'm able to use VR for about 30 minutes or so, but after that, like, I start getting extreme motion sickness, so I have to then turn it off and take some rest, right? So I don't know what could be a solution to that. I see a lot of games have stopped simulating like walking, right? Because that leads to that dissonance. So a lot of games have teleportation mechanisms, right? So where you are at one place and you point your teleporter and then you appear at some other place, just to avoid that feeling of moving in the game but not moving outside, right? So that teleportation doesn't cause so much of motion sickness. So I think that will be the one thing that if companies are able to solve or minimize, that will immensely help the popularity of VR headsets.
Yeah, you mentioned it really correctly, and there are a lot of design solutions which we bring in perspectives when we have to solve these sort of motion sickness problem. If you compare today's applications to earlier 2015 virtual reality applications like roller coasters and everything, they were like sick and they were like make you sick in several ways. So yeah, of course, if you are moving, you have to take care of acceleration. If the constant motion is there, it doesn't affect much, but if the acceleration rate of change in motion is there, it's affect how we perceive and how we feel about motion. So we build a lot of things, like there should not be a lot of jerks when you are, if you, suppose you are implementing staircases, there should not be a lot of jerks. We also narrow down the field of view sometimes whenever we have to make the acceleration. So if you narrow down the window, if you have played the Spider-Man games, they does it really well. They narrow down the window whenever that is happening. So there are a lot of VR ethics which we build, and of course the jump scares. Never do the jump scares when you are building a VR experience. So yeah, it could be really harmful.
Yeah, and hopefully, like, with time, right, as this field matures, more and more best practices will arise on how to minimize this. So that should make the future VR experience more comfortable.
I would like to add in something here related to these. There are these pods, right, that you can have at home, and it's a sort of a ring, and on the bottom of this ring, which is at your waist, at the bottom, under near your foot, there's a multi-direction treadmill, right, or something to keep your feet slipping on that surface, right? So, do you think that people will actually buy those devices and dedicate a room for it? So, let's say there is a family of four and they buy four of these different pods, and then they are wearing their headsets and standing in each one of these pods. Do you think that's a possible future, or is it overkill?
So I have seen like ads and YouTube videos for a lot of that, right? And I would love to have one of those setups, but the factor is cost and space, right? And space also indirectly is cost. So I guess like richer people with lots of space in their houses and lots of money to spare, they will be able to like not only like treadmills, right? They can also even buy things in which they are like they are hung from. Using bungee cords or something, right? So not only can they have like 2D motion, but also that the 3D motion, right? That whenever they jump up, the bungee cord can pull them up and then bring them down. So those kind of rigs will certainly be there for like the high end gamers and rich people. But again, not many families, if they have a family of four, not many families would want to use up a room in use up space in all four of their rooms for just VR, right? So I think, yeah, that's definitely there, an option for the high end gaming setups, but I find it hard to imagine that would percolate down to the casual gamer anytime soon.
Right now, the target of these manufacturers who are building these omnidirectional treadmills are the arcades. So, the 2020 arcades got affected very much, like any other outdoor sports people. So arcades take a big hit in those scenarios. So does these omnidirectional wheels and omnidirectional platforms. So definitely, there the target is arcade. I don't think that a lot of consumers gonna buy those treadmills. But of course, the haptic is something which is getting in consumer range, and that is very exciting. The B Haptics is building some amazing products, and they are very good. And these I would love to have those. These are in range as well.
While I was talking about those pods, right? They are not just like I understand that the hardware manufacturers are targeting gamers for adoption and arcades as well. But these pods are actually not just for gaming, right? They can then be used for even work. And if you can make a combination where people can sit and stand from time to time and use these treadmills, I think that is a full game changer on the whole interaction in virtual reality.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe in future, a lot of streaming people gonna buy these pods and everything, which also simulates motion. But apart from that, apart from streaming, I don't see any big use of this. I know a lot of vendors who are selling these pods in China, but they are mostly supplying it for all these arcades and amusement parks and things like that.
Also, another point that I have related to that is that one of the reasons for the popularity of gaming for a lot of people is that they can do difficult things on the screen which we might not be able to which we might not be capable of doing in the real world, right? So if we play like Call of Duty or whatever, the real amount of training that soldiers have to do to be able to jump around and jump over obstacles and do things, right? So as a normal person, like I'm nowhere physically fit enough to do all that, right? But while sitting and playing on my PS4, I can play all that. But now with a real treadmill, and if I have to actually run the distance that I'm seeing within the game, like I wouldn't be able to play the game for 10 minutes, right? Like I'll be out of breath. So I think while that seems like a good idea to get rid of like the motion sickness etc problem, but then uh, I think that makes the physical effort of gaming much more, and possibly like not everybody would enjoy that.
Also, to add to that, like I'm looking forward to a world where Avi says, "Come, let's go to the rec room," and we both press a button, and right there we are with Avi in the rec room. That's where we want to see him standing next to us and showing us the cool things. That would be ultimate, right?
Awesome. Whenever you want, we can meet in Rec Room too.
Yeah, but we all need the devices for now, so I'm looking for the day when things will get streamlined.
For sure. I'm hoping that all the Indian manufacturing units which are coming up with hardware, VR hardwares, I hope they also gonna work on this cross-platform discipline and support major social platforms like we have VR Chat, Altspace, VR, Rec Room, all these major platforms which provide the Indian market and connect it with the global social market as well. Community Chutia.
So, by the way, guys, so it has been wonderful talking to you both. But at 7 o'clock, I've got something else lined up, so I'm going to have to leave. But it has been wonderful talking to you both, and like I look forward to talking with you again in some other room, maybe. So, yeah, take care, and I'll take
Yeah.
your leave now.
Thanks for the
Thank you.
perspectives, Sauravji. We'll connect surely in the future as well in these conversations. So, or in somebody in the listener section would love to ask us some question if they have something. Please come up on stage. We'll discuss your questions, queries, or anything. I came across a company in India as well, which creates a lot of good haptic suits. So I'm forgetting the name, but I recently came across a company which create these sort of haptic suits in India.
For the doubt, like for the Sorry, for those who don't understand what a haptic suit is, can you please share what exactly does it help us in?
Yeah, I also searched about the company name as well. The company name is Holosuit, and haptic suit is basically haptic technology. Basically means that the content which you interact in virtual reality is completely virtual. It's not have any physical dimension, so you cannot obviously touch it. You cannot interact with it. But with the power of haptic technology, we would like to provide some sense and some feeling and some boundary, physical boundary to these objects as well. So for example, if you touch somebody in a virtual reality, you should also feel the presence of him with your hands or with your touching device or something. So there are plenty of haptic devices. There are various ways of creating them. It usually goes with mechanics. It usually involves a lot of hydraulics or motors or these sort of robotic setups. So these haptic suits contain basically small hydraulic controlled bubbles, and whenever somebody touches you, these bubbles got hydraulically filled, and you feel some sort of pressure in that particular area. So by precision controlling those pressure areas, the haptic suits provides a lot of touches and simulates these sort of touches to your body. For example, if you got hit in VR, you also feel some sort of pressure on your chest whenever you got hit. Or if you suppose handshake with somebody, so there are a lot of haptic gloves which bounds your fingers, which pull your fingers towards it, and then doesn't let you close your wrist when you are shaking hand with somebody. So these sort of effects are being provided by these haptic suits, and I'm really surprised that in India as well, a company called Holosuit is building some great products. So would love to connect with their founders as well, and would love to share some of their products with the community as well. uh, so next we have Pushkar ji. Pushkar ji would love to listen to you, and I would love to talk to you about the social VR experiences. So if you have some experience with those, would love to listen.
None so far. All I know it is as written technology or as what exists. In terms of, so I've just tried it out, but haven't bought any VR set so far. But I've just tried it out, the way it is in the lying in places. So I don't think so right now. I'm a capable person to answer such a question. I was just hopping rooms, and I had a fantastic conversation with in Rahul's room in the morning. So I just came back for some interesting conversation. That's about it. But you guys are talking about products here in particular, are we?
Yeah, we are basically discussing the VR and AR aspect of socials. So there are a lot of platforms which provide these social communities, like Altspace VR, VR Chat, and plenty of those. So what are the pros and cons of these platforms, and where do we see the future of these, and how they can change the communities? And also, Pushka ji, if you can uh, speak a little louder because your voice is really low on the mic.
Am I audible now?
Yeah,
Am I audible?
much better now.
Or is it still weak? Uh,
I guess it's
is
much
that clear?
better now.
Am I clear now?
Yeah, much audible now. So we can hear now.
Okay. Yeah. So, see, I think so. This whole gaming experience. Why VR is going to become a cult? That's for sure, because life is seen as a game typically, eventually. So even if any person who becomes very smart in whatever they do in their life, whether it be, so first I'll take on a practical aspect, the physical aspect, and then extend this logic to a VR aspect. So life typically, when you're great at something in your life, if you're number one in something, you'll get a game like experience in that field. So whether you're an architect or a doctor or an engineer, the best way to deal with life is to see life as a game, essentially. So even your practical physical life, if you see it itself as a VR experience first, you realize that if you become too serious with life, you can't enjoy life. You can't be number one in anything in your life, in any skill set. So if you want to be a number one tennis player, any number one cricketer, number one singer, anything, eventually when you're an expert, the master of the game is always sees that particular field of his life as a game, if not the entirety of life as a game. So I think it's the oldest, most beautiful concept to see things as games. And this the Sanskrit name for it is Leela. So I think so. The VR experience is nothing but you can say the extension of this game idea into a virtual world, and the virtual world will have two enhancements. One is you'll get sucked into it because it is beautiful to, you can say in a certain way, to detach from the physical world and get attached to a new world. So it's like when we watch a movie also on Netflix, we get lost into the movies. So the ability to lose yourself into something or someone or a virtual reality universe or a world is a relief from this physical world's pain, essentially. So people essentially are lonely to start with, human beings. So you look for companionship, you look for people, you look for friends, you look for worlds to enter into. Even music creates its own world, its own, you can say, sound vibrational sense of a universe by itself. So basically, virtual worlds will be a huge thing, and it should be there because people need some wine, some whiskey, some alcohol, some kind of dopamine rush. And virtual world, I think so, can create such a rush of specifically when it's going to be so realistic that your human flesh experience in the physical world and the virtual world experience will be so interchangeably real that when you're in that virtual world, you'll feel as if you're still in the physical world. So when that distinction will be lost, that you're wearing a headset and you enter into that world, and it'll feel like you're touching flesh and skin and experiencing with your five senses the world exactly as you experience the physical world. At that point, I think so, human beings will choose to live more in the virtual world and less in the physical. Where at least there you could be a king, while in the physical world you might not have a king experience or a mastery experience. So I think so it's going to become more obsessive domain in coming times, just because of the fact that the physical world, when it does not satisfy, people jump to the virtual world to find greater satisfaction. And human beings essentially are satisfying finding machines eventually. So wherever you get more satisfaction, you jump into that domain. So it could be music, it could be VR experience, or specifically what I think, it's like a fleshed out, your same bones, blood, eyes, five senses, the same kind of experience. When it becomes that real in a computer generated universe, then I think so. It's a great deal for humanity. And I think so. The movie Matrix, again and again, I come back to this movie because it was the first movie in the world to show this universe as a virtual engine or a VR machine itself, this entire universe, a physical universe. So we're already living in a virtual reality in a certain way, even with our two eyes right now and our five senses. And I think so. So I'm just translating this in a different way. So the game-like experience will become a game-like, real, fleshy experience based on five senses. And at that point, I think so, then you'll choose to live more in the virtual world, less in the physical. Since the virtual world will be more satisfying, more gratifying, and more controllable. And because human beings eventually feel satisfied when they control things, versus in the physical life when you go out of control. So that's how I look at this virtual experience coming up.
That's some amazing perspective, and I guess it's more about how reward system works. So, in real scenarios, the reward system is not that supportive. So you do a lot of hard work, and then you get some sort of results, I would say. However, in games, you do something and you instantly got a reward. Some sort of star, some sort of collectible. Within virtual reality as well, we are building similar systems. So the gamification is all about instant rewards, and that's what makes it so much engaging and so much addictive. So when it comes to VR and VR worlds, of course these are going to be addictive as well, and it could play really well in several ways. It could really support and destroy in the cultures in several ways as well. Of course there are good and bad things about everything, so we it's just a matter of time that how we're gonna see the societies and the transformation of how we gonna interact. You also mentioned some really great points that how we are already part of this transformation and we are already in a virtual societies already. So next we have Sean Williams. Would love to listen to you, Sean, and listen to your perspective on social XR.
So while we hear from Sean, I would like to chime in that the way we play board games today, right? Like you gather around people and you create a board game setup. You take out the things and you put all the cards on the table or the pieces on the table. And then what happens is either you go play the game for 4 hours or 6 hours and you get done with it, or you can just pause after 1 hour and then leave it as it is, right? So in the AR space, what you can do is you can just pause the game and let everyone go and do whatever they want in their real life and maybe resume from there from the next time. And no one has to clean up the board pieces, etc.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with that.
I also think that see, two things the physical world is obsessed with. Uh, one is the sexual experience, the other is the money experience, right? So when the
Pushkar,
virtual
sorry
world
to
will
interrupt. Audio
offer
is low again.
yeah, so I'm saying the physical world is obsessed with typically two kinds of experiences. One is the sexual experience, the other is the money experience. That's what the world craves all the time, in one way or the other. So the minute you can replicate those sexual experiences in more varied forms and with more extremities in the virtual world, and you can replicate the money experience, the money rush which you feel when you earn money more in the virtual world. At that point, the variety which the virtual world will offer will be so amazing and so infinite in terms of gratification for the human being, that it will be more, you can say, it will create more suction for the human soul to enter into, versus the physical world where people again remain dissatisfied. So these two will become a transition point when these two are achieved in full accuracy. If you can replicate the physical experience of the sexual experience and the money experience into the virtual world, at that point it will become the transition of complete obsession into the virtual. So that will create the biggest shift. Before that, there are only, you can say, time periods to create that transition. They're intermediary periods, but the mega transition will happen with uh, sex and money experience in the virtual life, essentially.
Damn.
Did I go too far ahead?
No, but I'm just thinking like, in order to sell it to kids, we have to keep these things out. And if you're saying that these are the anchors for that virtual world, then we are in a problem. Because if you want 16-year-olds and 18-year-olds to come on board, right? You want to keep them a little away from money and, you know, like all of that other thing.
I know what you're saying, but I'm just saying that one way or the other, this is going to become a. See, I'll tell you what, the virtual world is a mirror of the physical world. So eventually, you have today a 2D mirror via you can say, the internet, and then it'll enter into a three-dimensional mirror, and later even to more dimensions. Something like what string theory suggests as multiple dimensions of life, right? Or multiple dimensions even of approaching space and time. So I think the mirroring will not stop. So I find this analogy very amazing when you stand in a lift and you're standing there and you're surrounded by, one side the lift door and three sides there's a mirror, and your image goes on reflecting into deeper reflections of the mirror. So similarly, that physical person standing there is the physical reality, and then the deeper reflections into a lift mirror, as you look deeper and deeper into it, it goes on infinitely. So I think this is the way even the virtual world will appear. First, it will go into one reflection, then another kind, another kind. Eventually, it will become more obsessive even than the physical. So unless there's a spiritual mind transformation in the human being on the physical world, the virtual world's technology is going to beat any day the physical world's experience. That's what I see is the competition between the human brain and you can say the machine brain or the virtual reality machine brain. So it's a competitive competition between human evolution and machine evolution. Eventually, what you're looking at as larger concept.
We are seeing right now a lot of activity in social space, virtual production. In fact, there's a TV show which is being announced, a reality show. It's called Alter Ego, and this is going to be streamed this month only. And the show is all about how the alter egos of people in form of virtual avatars of their gonna perform in a singing reality show. Some good people are associated with it, like Will I Am is one of the judges, and I'm really looking forward towards it and how. There are a lot of things related to this episode. If somebody wants to share, there are a lot of deeper meanings. It goes a lot of in philosophy as well. Don't want to go deep into it, but yeah, these things are happening. That's how change is being driven.
Yeah, so I think that Netflix and international cinema allows a lot of new stuff to come in, free of censorship also, and so it allows more freedom of thought and freedom of movies, and then freedom of imagination. So you're correct that so one can pick up insights of the future using these futuristic kind of series. And I also think that just the normal consumption of how human beings consume alcohol. Like if you look at India, the maximum money is made through petrol and alcohol. That's how the city makes money. At least the lockdowns proved that. So the alcoholic experience itself is a brain virtual experience which is temporarily generated. And so when you say I get high when you take a drink or two drinks or three drinks, it's the same thing that your mind enters into a virtual somehow chemical experience. So I find that this need of virtual worlds is also reflected in the physical experience even of alcohol, or for whatever people which is illegal to speak, but for whatever people are interested in drugs also, it's the same need for virtual experiences. So there's a worldwide demand, which alcohol actually is predicting the demand for a virtual world eventually, to a complete virtual world. So imagine being drunk but not affecting your liver or kidney or brain, and yet living in a virtual world all the time. In fact, all social media is dopamine driven and serotonin driven. So it's again the same things which get triggered when you have alcohol or drugs, and the same thing will also be triggered as dopamine and serotonin as you go into the virtual world. The chemical experience for the human being is the same, whether you're having alcohol or you go into a virtual world eventually. But it will be hopefully free of side effects, which it would not be, but it should be like that.
So here with us is Sabu Francis. Sabuji would love to listen to your perspectives on how the social platforms in virtual reality or augmented reality even are being built. Or you can also talk about several other 2D virtual spaces as well. So what is your perspective on this? How the society is adopting virtual reality or virtual avatars of several kinds?
Uh, there are many things to say actually. I don't know what all things need to be covered and what you have covered so far. So for those of you who have not met me, I'm basically an architect and also deep into IT. And I wrote my own design software. So I've been investigating this area since last almost 11 years actually, or so, 2009, 12 years, 12 years. So I was the HOD and dean of an IT college in Pune, and I used to do a fair amount of experiments with my students there. A social network based on architectural floor plans. And it was pretty well received, and I was trying to figure out what are the negatives and positives. So, but what I want to say here is that you need to really take a step back and take a look at what can be done and what needs to be done. There are two different things. A lot of computer programming, unfortunately, ends up like what somebody, a mountaineer, I think the one who conquered Everest, I forget his name, Hillary, I think, na? The person who climbed Everest for the first time. So he was asked that why do you want to climb a mountain? Okay, basically you want to prove to yourself that I can actually climb that mountain. And unfortunately, what happens is when something exciting comes in our lives where we get triggered in many ways, that excitement is considered as a justification for doing things. And this leads to a lot of distortions later on, and people go in some uncontrolled fashion, and then they chitkofy and stick a different explanation afterwards. Typically, like Facebook never did any great research and all to talk about dopamine or anything of that sort. It just happened, and then say, oh, okay, it is actually because we are getting very high dopamine kick and all that. The problem with this approach is that we are not talking about a mountain which we need to climb. And that's a very, very important thing because, I'm a 60-year-old guy. I'll be dead and gone and worm food in another 20 years, probably. Hopefully, like, I hope I can live another 20 years. But all you youngsters are going to be there for 60, 70 years at least, if not more. And in that period, if you don't sow the seeds today, for whatever protests you are doing. Let me share one example which happened in the middle of the 19th century, and I call it the i7 laptop of the middle of the 19th century. So around 1850, 55, there was a big problem which those people solved during the Industrial Revolution, which is getting a sewing machine to work at home. You know, and these are all cold countries, right? England and US and all that. That's where the Singer sewing machine was invented. Now this created such a huge excitement that my God, I can actually have a machine which will stitch a lot of clothes, because in cold climates, stitching clothes is a huge occupation because they need lots of clothes over there, right? So this became such a huge obsession that there was one fashion which suddenly came up. Again, the same thing, right? You have something very, very exciting which has just come into your life. One i7 laptop with a graphics card has come into your life, and then you are now wanting to justify what you can do with it. So there was this fashion which was called crinoline. You can look it up. It's a pretty interesting situation which happened. And this crinoline fashion was for ladies, so they used to want to have very tiny waist. Now many of them don't have tiny waist, they are all fat and all, so they made the bottom half of it very bulbous. Okay, they were very fat, like, and you see it was so hilarious. So they used to create all this hoops made of, I think, cane and all that, and the fabric was then stitched on top of that, and I mean it was like crazy. The thing what happened was that these many of these ladies started dying because of very bizarre accidents. They had, like, somebody, the that particular dress will catch fire at one end, and that lady has not realized, and by the time she realized it, it is too late, and or the lady actually gets lifted by the breeze and get thrown and bashed against some across the street, and all kinds of problems happen. And you may think that why would somebody make such huge thing? They are huge. Okay, this bulbous dresses were like 2.5 meters circumference, sorry, a diameter. Okay, now why would you make such things? Like, I mean, later on when you have perspective and you look back and you say ये सब हो रहा था क्या 1850 to, it went on for 50 years, man. 50 years people are doing this, all these silly things, and and they used to tighten the waist and all kinds of things, all because they thought there is a mountain which needs to be climbed, and that excitement of climbing that mountain was so nice and that all kinds of justification got put on top of it. That's a problem with design. That's what's happening in my field of architecture also. Same crap, like, okay, I can do this, therefore I will do this. I think that is really something, at least I should point that out. We need to be very careful about what are you, of all the various things which needs to be done, what are the things which you really need to do, and it is not what can be done. A lot of computer science has got still a huge amount of underlying technologies, no, underlying knowledge base, not technology, underlying knowledge base which is not come in. I just now I heard a speaker, he was making a fair amount of opinions about what is happening. I think he's not here. I forget his name. He was here just now. And the thing is that it's all exciting, but it is all very based on very थोड़ा इधर रीड किया, थोड़ा उधर रीड किया, थोड़ा ये excitement हो गया, वो excitement हो गया, and then you're saying that this is what social networks are. But social network is what we were right from centuries, thousands of years, right? If you follow that Harare's book Sapiens, the central theme, not just him, he actually simplified it. There are many other pretty boring sociologists and anthropologists who already know that point. He just expressed it in a very nice manner in his book. And what is he talking about? We've been social networking for thousands of years. So what is really needed to be understood is that what constitutes this social networking. What is actually really doing, not get attracted to the vision of things. There is no mountain to be climbed because it's a challenge which we need to do. That's not the way to look at it. At least that's not the way I would like to look at it. Why should technology be taken up as a challenge which you have to overcome? I mean, that's for what reason? That I'll have an edge over my competitors. ठीक है यार, थोड़ा पैसा बनाया तो क्या हो गया? उसके बाद क्या हो गया? So a lot of things which is happening in computer science is, I should not be so critical about that. There's some very serious knowledge base in computer science also, which I don't have full access to because I'm not from that field directly. So what is happening is, instead of looking at what to do with computers and internet as that this can be done, and then translate that this should be done, is a very dangerous step. Can be and should be में बीच में बहुत फर्क है, because it is going to affect you're going to live a life of 60 years. It will be your grandchild who will be stuck with some addiction which you're scratching your head trying to figure out ये किधर से टपका suddenly, ये कैसा हुआ. That's what's happening with you ask the father of that 18-year-old girl who killed herself because she saw something on Facebook about her ex-boyfriend. That father is scratching her head, figuring out ये कहाँ से आ गया suddenly, ये तो मैं सोचा ही नहीं था, right? So that crinoline dress example which I gave, I mean, somebody's caught fire, man, and died. So this is, and it took 50 years for civilization to realize that yes, is not the way you go about using. So what, you got singer sewing machine at home, yeah? So that's the context in which the application of technology needs to be seen. And internet is such a young field. It is mind-bogglingly young. It is like crazily, there are so many topics which has to be opened up. Like, what is privacy? What is notification? Okay, what is the way we actually interact? How do we huddle together? There are very important areas where in my field of architecture we've been discussing for literally hundreds of years. but nothing of that sort has actually even come remotely into the people who are doing these applications, right? You are a UI designer, you are a UX designer, and you're so caught up in the hype of, yeah, this button looks really nice and that particular thing looks so slick. अरे इसके वजह से करने वाला है. So that's not the way I would say that. That's why I think Avi and Rahul already knows my position about these kind of things, and pardon me for if you've heard me before. I just want to express these kind of contra thoughts also. It is whenever I do coding, I'm very thoughtful about what the heck do I really code? Like, what is the future repercussions of that coding? And I code quite a lot in different languages. So the reason why that needs to be done is to have some perspective of where all these things are going to. It's not just driven because of technology is allowing me to do it. So you see, I'll give you one example. Today I given a talk about this in I was called for a talk in Pune in 2018. You can look up Galloper talk and Sabu Francis. You should get it on YouTube. So let me take one example where computer science people have really misunderstood the concept of notification. Now, concept of notification is essentially an architectural concept. Now, why is that? How does architecture come into notification? Like you see, if you are walking into your gated community, I'm in a housing colony of about, I think, 300 apartments here. Now, if I'm driving down here and if I see an ambulance, that's notification, man. That's absolute notification. I just say, shit, man, what happened? Why is the ambulance here? Or if I see some, police constables over there, that's notification, which is happening in space. And we've been doing this kind of notification for thousands of years. But what is notification as per computer software, guys? That something pops up on the screen, and then you look at it, and then you drag it down, and you say, okay. But the thing is, it actually has stopped notifying, right? How many of us really really look at this notification? There's so many of these notifications coming, fat karke, one below the other. And we are got completely immune to it. At least I've got immune. I know many people who have switched off notifications only. The thing is that a very essential part of how we have lived in this 3D world, that is not even discussed. And instead, we are looking at the 3D part of it. The fact that you can do something in 3D is a very exciting thing. But there are fundamental thing here. This is like notification is a very important thing. But you can't do it by placing it one below the other. A lot of user interface is happening one below the other. Right? Where did it start? It started long time back in Unix computers and later on in DOS computers. Because those days the monitor cannot handle data appearing in non-linear fashion in various parts of the screen. So if you write dir in a DOS window, the directory will be displayed one below the other. For some reason, that is what is assumed to be the standard, that things have to be placed one below the other. But it is not. That is not what we do in our real life. Imagine coming home and say, okay, I'm so impressed by Gmail. Everything is one below the other. So I'm going to arrange everything chronologically one below the other in my house. Your mother will think you're mad. Like. So the thing is that we have not even started arguing and discussing these kind of concepts. Instead, we are just focusing on the fact that मुझे 3D कर सकता है. अरे? Is that the only thing? And there are million conversations which has to happen here. The internet happened only about 20 years, and with WebGL and all that which has come into browsers, which is about what 15 years, 10-15 years. And when you talk about VR and AR glasses and all this, it's all very primitive stage, yeah. And that is just talking about the thing which is very convenient to talk about, because vision, 30% of our brain activity is dealing with vision. So when somebody presents vision based kind of thing, that's a very smooth entry point for a discussion to start. And that is very risky because the thing which really gives value is not just vision. It is performance, it is character. It's not just personality, right? I mean, if a guy comes who's very smartly dressed and all, okay, maybe you may get a little impressed, but if he's talking poppycock from his mouth, or he's a very crude guy, भाड़ में गया उनका dress vest and all, like, right? I mean, what are you going to do with his dress when that guy is an idiot and he can't talk for nuts and he's kicking the dog or whatever, like. So we are deriving value not just because of the vision, we are deriving value because of a lot of non-visual things in the world around, in the social network around. Okay, and that deriving of values requires you to, sit together and huddle together in a way and look at body language. Body language has not fully got invented. So all youngsters finally invented body language using emoticons. In fact, there's a beautiful TED talk by a linguist who has pretty successfully proved that when people are using emoticons, they are actually not writing language, they are actually speaking. And why did that come up? Because like कोई उसके बारे में बराबर theory आता ही नहीं है, लेकिन कुछ तो आ गया, so youngsters pick it up and then use that and it gets distorted. And old people don't understand those emojis. There are youngsters who actually many times talk purely in emojis, isn't? And if an old guy comes to see, he will not understand what the heck is going on. So there's a lot of discussions to be done, and it's not just 2D and 3D. It is not to be, you can't look at the world as that, oh, there's a mountain, okay, and we have to climb that mountain. It's such a beautiful mountain, and I'll be the first guy to climb that mountain. I think if that thing is done in mountaineering, it is fine, because that mountain is a static thing. It's not a human being. But here we are talking about as if, like I can do this in React and this thing. I can do this using WebSockets. I can do this in WebGL. I can do this with this kind of VR. And I mean, where all will this go yet? Sorry, my 2 bits. Thank you.
Thanks for the perspective, Sabuji. Would love to talk more about it someday on my podcast as well. So next is Afred Rahman. Afred, would love to know your perspectives about social VR. So there are a lot of social VR platforms, and in a lot of ways, a lot of people connecting through these platforms, sharing their engagements more and more. So what is your opinion on them?
Yeah, hi everyone. So my point of perspective is like people are still like they're not enabled to the new technology like VR or AR, XR, SMR, what. Like people have to like move on to the most advanced technology field which is happening right now in the world. So like I feel like that the technology field guys are not like uh, talking about this like how it's gonna change in future. Yeah. So as Sabu said that there are no like innovators also present in consideration to pass on the good news about technology. So that's my kind of view. Till I heard about your conversation, like let's see what goes on more.
Yep, got it totally. Next, we have Kuldeep ji. Kuldeep, would love to listen your perspectives on social XR and what you think about these platforms.
Hi Avi, thank you so much for bringing me up, but I don't think so. I'm the right person to, to talk about, or let's say I don't really have that much of experience. I just came here to listen to Sabu sir actually. Thank you so much, Avi, for the opportunity though.
Kuldeep ji, I can see you are into gaming and art. So, have you heard of these sort of tools and how the tools itself are changing in several ways? And almost every, if I come to art community, they are preferring NFTs these days. and NFTs are also being linked to AR platforms. So have you?
Yeah, definitely. So I am in the online gambling and the casino industry, but for over the I am been in this industry for like last 6 7 years. But recently, I think around like 1 to 2 years. So those games we used to play at the offline, like example, you go to any offline casino, there are like kind of slot machines. You know, you put your money and you buy chips and they start playing that. But those kind of games in the virtual world has been changed a lot recently. So the experience, the gamers, the gamblers, the looking is like, you know, totally different. So what kind of the graphics they use now, literally there are some games in the online casinos, they're literally using, you know, VR, so they can really feel and play those kind of, like for example, those poker specifically. So you can feel the okay that there are other players, they're like literally sitting in front of you, so they can have the better experience of playing. So in that sense, yeah, definitely it's changing. There are a lot of new development happening in the casino industry as well. So they're they are bringing that offline, you know, thing to so that those players can enjoy much more and, you know, start playing more. So yeah, it's definitely happening in that industry.
Yeah, I can totally see. I've worked on a similar poker sort of game, and I can see how poker was being played usually on computers with a single player game, but now it's a social experience as well. So there as well, we can see some of the changes happening in the industry. So, Afridji, you are also an architect and you are also a computer designer. So, would love to know how you see VR components in the field of architecture are helping the industry in several ways. So, have you found any benefits of that?
Yeah, definitely. Like augmented reality and virtual reality plays a different role in architecture field. Like uh, at student level, like when we used to create portfolio for the architecture school, like everyone used to make like digital illustrations or digital rendering views for elevation or an apartment or a building somewhat. Like for what I used differently was I used augmented reality as a tool using like basic argument builder side, like we have for Android Unity builder and also supported by Euphoria. So it helped me to create 3D models on augmented world. So it helped my clients. Now also the office where I joined, like they were too inspired about my work, like how you can make the portfolio too effectively with the technology. Like still and also in construction, that AR and VR are very helpful in doing that for the. It's a bit like it is very easy for us to convey it to the other contractors or other construction workers.
I can totally agree to you, Afraid. So because we have also worked on a few architecture projects with VR, and we can see how it's easier to convince the consumer about the end result of the what we're gonna build. Of course, there are plenty of other tools, but a lot of 2D and 3D tools are existing. But with VR, you can immerse somebody into the very end result, which plays a lot of important role. Mukul is with us. Mukul, do you want to go about social XR, and if you have any experiences, do you want to share with us?
No, no, I don't have any experience, but I'm listening here.
So, Mukul, I can see you are a 2D animator and motion graphics. So, into motion graphics, when I talk about motion graphics, I guess you are closely working with people who create these sort of concept arts and things like that. How do you see the 3D and the VR adoption or the AR elements are bringing life to the very art or creating it more runtime systems to present with larger audience? Even if you look at a lot of Instagram filters these days, they are a good example of how some sort of concept arts can bring life.
I'm not getting the point what you're trying to say to answer my.
Awesome. So yeah, I guess this was it. If somebody wants to add to something, if yeah, if you guys want to come up on stage, please raise your hand, and we can pick you up. Or I guess we discussed a lot of good things in great details today. The subject was social XR, so there are plenty of these platforms. There are literally even reality shows being built on top of the technology, where people are adopting avatars. There is one more concept I would love to talk about, and the concept is called virtual embodiment. The kind of body somebody adapts in form of their avatar, or the kind of uh, the kind of avatar they design for themselves. So with the show, the alter ego is the show name. There also I saw it with. However, there is only the trailer has been released. However, you can see a lot of the contestant have picked the avatar in such a way that that complements whatever the disabilities, or you can say whatever the minus points of their characters are. They are trying to fulfill it with their virtual avatars. So what is your opinion? Do you guys think that in future it could be one way to complement your existing reality in form of virtual presence? So if you look at current social scenarios as well, like you talk about Instagram, or if you talk about Facebook, in some manner they are also doing these sort of fake perceptions and everything. But how these avatars, which are like the virtual representations of yourself, can bring colors to this picture, would love to see. So next we have the panda kind of guy. I cannot read his name because there is no name there. So Mr. Panda, would love to listen to you, and yeah, please share some of your perspectives on social XR. I guess he's not here. Yeah, Rahul, you wanna go and talk about something?
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah. So when we are talking, there is a documentary called Traveling While Black, and this documentary focuses on how you can feel the racism when you are in a character which is black, and you can walk around the streets and see how people talk about you. And then being in a black body, you can experience how it feels to be a black person. And it's a powerful documentary. Everybody, it's a very it's, I guess, in the Oculus Editor Club now. I guess Oculus has promoted this documentary. They have adopted it. There are plenty of good such documentary which comes up with these social messages in virtual reality, and uses the power of storytelling with VR. So there are plenty of stuff to look around, I would say.
Certainly, and also to Sabu Francis sir, right? He said that there's a whole lot of things which can be done, but to understand whether they should be done is a whole different matter. I think those kind of educational aspects can be put as first-class citizens in the virtual worlds, so that even the creators are aware, the investors are aware, the users are aware that the whole point of this is not to create a degen society, right? You are trying to make a society a better place with these virtual worlds. So even if you have to revisit the fundamentals, like just a simple question, I mean, not simple, means the most basic question is what is architecture and how does it interface and create the context, which Sabu sir has explained to us multiple times, right? But that sort of knowledge could go to the whole world and he could get credited for that. That's something that we're looking forward to. If he doesn't build it himself, then we can build it for him.
No, no. Yeah, thank you for the faith. I actually, I do play around with all these technologies. It's not that I don't. I just believe that to give the right perspective of what these kind of technologies do, we have to be very, very careful about about that aspect about can and should. Should is a very dangerous word in English language, in any language. Like if I tell my daughter that you should be doing this, I may end up creating some expectations which may be incorrect, right? So it's the same thing with technology, like, and a lot of what is really worrying in technology, in IT industry, in especially internet based software, is people are putting explanation after the fact. you know you take anything, you take Slack for example. Okay, Slack is very powerful, a lot of people use it and all that. And then now, if you really see, there are some very interesting articles about why Slack is very distracting, because you are sitting and doing your work, and you got this huge number of channels in your office Slack server, and suddenly you get a disturbance because somebody has asked a question, and it has distracted you from your actual work which you've been up to. Now, the other person on the other side who sent it didn't realize that you're going to get distracted. Now, who's sitting down and solving and trying to understand these kind of problems also exist? So what happens generally in any technology, you not just in computers, you take when cars were invented and internal combustion fuel was invented, people said, no, I have to kill a lot of people, I have to create a lot of pollution. It is absurd, right? I mean, nobody would have said that. The thing is that when something new comes into society, it is like ink falling on blotting paper. It will start creating a lot of tentacles, and that tentacles will go in, can sometimes go in unexpected places. Like you take plastic for example. You know, people, nobody wanted to really kill people or kill the ocean life with plastic, right? But it happened. So why can't we say that whatever we do now on the internet, look at the manipulations of data and information which Facebook has created. It has created complete chaos with that Cambridge Analytica and all. Like it was crazy. The Brexit situation in UK was completely distorted and very verifiably distorted. It's not even that ऐसा theory है शायद हुआ रहेगा, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. सीना तान के डिस्टॉर्ट किया है, सीना तान के किया है. So, we are very small people here. At least I am a very small guy. I am not a very well-known or influential guy. The guys who are really influential, they're sitting down and say, forget it, man. We will still manipulate all this. So, all of us will sit down and develop all this technology and everything. And somebody who wants to really go and screw the world will say, I have no morals here. मैं तो मरने वाला है, like. मेरा क्या जाता है, like. And this fellow, poor guy sitting here in India, he created all this. Wow, let's build on top of that and exploit people further. यही तो हो रहा है, सब जगह वही हो रहा है ना. इवन आर्किटेक्चर वही तो हो रहा है. In my profession of architecture, people are happily making buildings full of glass here in this, as if Bombay has got some serious, snowstorms and winter, which is, minus 30 degrees centigrade. तो मुझे glass चिटकाना पड़ेगा so that, the building will heat up. Why is that happening? Because some guys over there who are influential, they don't care two shits about what is going on. So that is why I mention all this, and not because that I don't play around with the technology. I've written a 3D software myself, and I am very careful about what type of features I add into that. Very very careful, because I have to think through that इसका repercussions किधर होने वाले हैं, आगे जाके क्या होने वाले हैं, where all things will it lead to. So it's not just the glitz and glamour which I mean, just like if I find that some really glamorous way of using 3D is possible, I'll pick it up in. I'm quite sure I'll pick it up pretty fast. Everybody will. So I'm not worried that I have to be the first guy to do it or anything of that sort. So that's the way I look at it. So since we are talking about social networking. It is not a one-to-one connection between society and what happens on the internet. It is not going to be that. When the things change, when the medium changes, the mechanism changes, you are going to you have to think about a lot of things, right? If you have been driving a bicycle and you have been pedaling on a bicycle and you enjoy the ride, you're not going to pump your pedals of a car up and down inside the car, right? You're going to think through the whole thing all over again. That is the way we should be. But we are trying to see one-to-one connection. अरे इधर ऐसा ऐसा हो रहा है, so I'll just make a 3D thing over there, and उधर भी ऐसे ऐसे ही होने वाला है. In some very specific domains, like if I'm examining the inside of a machinery, for example, or if I'm looking at how bones are broken and how you can there, because the domain is very well clearly bounded. When that VR system which is examining or teaching surgery to be surgeons, doctors, there I can fully understand it can be pretty useful, because it is not talking about that okay, I can then move into, I will switch one thing and I'll move into a 3D world where everybody is like skeletons or something like that. So there, those kind of things is very, very admirable and very useful. Those kind of things is what I have actually seen that's happening, right? Even if you look at Microsoft, I think I told this before. There was an article about it. Microsoft bought over a company and they were giving big gyan that it will become very popular and ye and wo. In fact, this very popular thing तो कब से चल रहा है? About 7-8 years तो at least 10-15 साल से चल रहा है कि VR will come and everybody will be wearing VR goggles and all that. But हुआ नहीं है. And there's a good reason for it. Sometimes people, when they try to when they get disappointed in something, they can't actually put a finger around that. That's why Microsoft shifted the policy. In that article, they have actually specified that now we have shifted into only industrial applications for that particular glass. I forget which glass they have taken over. Maybe Avi may know about this article. So if you are looking inside a machinery, because that's a very fixed domain, okay, clear cut, okay, that engine which you are examining for manufacturing defects using a VR glass will be made very precisely on very precise things. And there's no human being inside that engine also. So there I can fully understand. But to really say that we have to take that and then get it into, I have, even if it is possible, I have serious doubt whether it should be done. That's how I look at it.
I can
Thank
totally
you.
understand it. So I guess you were talking about Hololens. It's a very expensive one as well. So initially they started as a consumer unit and they were pretty sure and confident about it that for consumers it's gonna work. But then finally they have to come up with the version 2 of Hololens, and then they said that it's going to be industrial purpose only. That costs around $3,500. So yeah, it's expensive for normal people to buy. For normal purposes like attending meetings or something, you can do it on a I would say $500 computer.
Your voice is going up. Sometimes it's missing.
Yeah, I guess the network has some issues on my end. I don't have alternate Wi-Fi today.
That's why I see a lot of benefits in 2D more than 3D. There's a lot which can be done. In fact, 2D is not fully seen only, like, and not fully used. Like all these things about notification and all. I got this product for remote working called Team Twine, which uses 2D avatars and a 2D floor plan kind of thing. You can create multiple floor plans, but they don't look like regular floors, just to simplify the things. In fact, I'm now working on the second version of it and probably change the name of the domain now. And because I have figured out some ways by which I can work out with the real file explorer and file management also, instead of just being on the inside a browser. So that's pretty exciting. So this 2D thing is there's a couple of videos which I've made in teamtwine.com. If you go to teamtwine, TWINE, TEAM, TWINE.com. So that I'm going to dismantle because I'm coming up with the next version of that. So 2D has got a lot of scope according to me, and a lot more things can be done. A lot of these things like privacy controls and which today people, again, privacy is one thing which for many software guys it is like, okay, I'll have a settings menu, and inside that configuration will be there, and there it will be said this is private and this can be shared and all that. ऐसा थोड़ी होता है in the real world. If I have something which is private, I take the thing and put it in my bedroom. Like, that is privacy. So the architecture around me is what is dictating privacy onto the things which we want. We are not going to make love right outside in the lobby of a building, right? We make love inside a bedroom somewhere. That is privacy. So the architecture is the one which is actually giving that privacy. And that type of discussion and knowledge about all this in architecture, we have a subject known as environment behavior, which is a massive subject. And there are so many experiments, so many discussions, debates. पूछो नहीं, like सब हुआ है इसमें, और कुछ भी इसमें नहीं आ रहा है इधर. Nothing of that sort is coming into while developing these kind of applications, which is strange actually. Which is actually I can understand because it's a very very young field, man. Now I'm making some noise here. If somebody tries to understand what I'm saying, they'll say, okay, let me go and see what the hell is environment behavior and what type of research happened there and what kind of concepts are they talking about there. And at the conceptual level, there can be many practical use which you can bring it into the into these kind of applications. बट ऊपर ऊपर से देखते हैं ये अच्छा दिखता है, अच्छा दिखता है, ये ऐसा दिखता है, वैसा दिखता है, वही उसी से वजह से वी गॉट थिंग्स लाइक फेसबुक एंड ऑल, नो. I mean, there's absolutely no real reason for us to have actually Facebook. But ho gaya. And now we are fitting an explanation because it's become a habit. Like it is like automobiles. Like, I mean, ठीक है, अभी क्या करेगा? Some people died. अभी क्या करेगा? So pollution हो गया, अभी क्या करेगा? Fuel wars हो गया, अभी क्या करेगा? लेकिन कार तो चाहिए ना. ऐसा explanation चालू हो गया. That's what we are doing with all these kind of technologies everywhere, not just in IT, right? And that's why the whole world is getting screwed. So we put the explanation after the fact. प्लास्टिक का क्या जरूरत था, लेकिन है, यूज कर रहा है. So we are not realizing, every step which we take is very very risky. Sorry, I think I'm driving away the audience.
I guess you saying it very correctly, that as a human being we don't have the perspective of time. We think that all the animals couldn't have the capability to understand time properly and make sense of what future is. But when we look at a broader spectrum of time, like 20 to 40 years, human seems to make a lot of mistakes where we don't understand what is immediate need versus what is going to be the impact on the broader way of society. So I can totally get it where you are going with this. Yeah, agreeing with your.
See, human beings are a very peculiar animal. We are not doing anything very clearly. Like, I'll give you an example. There's a very nice TED talk about that also, about short-term memory which chimpanzees have. Now, chimpanzees are actually following the Buddhist principle. They are very cued in on what happens in that second, in that minute, whatever that instance is. So if there's a Japanese researcher who's doing things with these chimpanzees, and on the screen a lot of displays comes, and they can, it will show some numbers Okay, and those chimpanzees know the sequence of numbers. They've been taught that, and it just flashes in literally microseconds, and they'll say 1 2 3 4 5 6, and randomly aata hai, it'll click on all that in the right sequence. Actually, they're not numbers. I think they're just dots, and you have to just click on the dots in the right sequence, and they'll get a small sweet, and they get it perfect every time, like in that 2 second 1 second के अंदर वो टक 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 करके ऐसा लाइट आता है, and in the same sequence the chimpanzee will also click, and one human being, the you follow the channel called Vsauce, Sauce, Vsauce. उसके अंदर उस that chimpanzee का thing is there. Now look at the thing from a deeper way. Okay, now humans also, we live in the present instance. Facebook is trying to promote that ना. एक अच्छा मैसेज आ गया फेसबुक पर, फिर थोड़ा देर के बाद दूसरा किसी का मैसेज आ गया, जो पुराना देखा था it went down further, right? And then another one came, and it just goes one below the other. It's as if like Facebook is trying to keep our dopamine high so much that they don't want us to dwell on any one of the items. But the thing is, humans are not like that. We take certain things which we have noticed at any given point in time, and somewhere in the back of the mind it bothers us for sometimes months together, sometimes for years together. And that's the unfortunate fragility of being a human being. Abhi kya karega? We are built like that. We can't be like chimpanzees. Chimpanzees, if you insult a chimpanzee just like the dots, at that point in time he will be very, very clear about that insult you gave to the chimpanzee, and maybe he'll slap you or try to kill you or something. But the next moment that chimpanzee is forgotten about it, because that is their way of doing it. So if we took the capability of remembering only that one particular moment as that 3D world is going around, then maybe it would work, but we are not like that. We are just not like that. We remember body languages, we remember the way he spoke, the way उस time वो क्या उल्लू जैसा आदमी था, you know. We all, but like, I mean, it has happened to me when I was young. I was quite a hot-tempered guy. You know, I can't suffer foolishness, and I'll सीधा सीधा कुछ भी बोलते हैं. Like, and the thing is, I'm not having any ill intent on the other person, right? But I meet the guy after 5 years, he's still remembering, and I didn't realize that I've insulted him. So we have to understand who we are. Like, so there's a lot of research and a lot of things which were done for all this. So to say that we will be using the visual part of it is such a tiny little part. Actually, though it is very impressive in the meaning of the word impression, it leaves an impression, because 30% of a brain is involved in vision, right? But you see what they have studied about the hippocampus region, about how we understand spatial acuity. We have the largest hippocampus is a region in the brain which actually helps you with spatial acuity. Like, like in the night when light is dark, you can kind of sense where the switch is, because you got the 3D idea about where the switch is. That is guided by the hippocampus. When we visit any place and we come back, especially males, ladies have a poorer understanding. We actually can figure out especially architects. I have to go to a place only once, and I know exactly where it is next time. So that's all done because of the hippocampus. They've studied taxi drivers in London. They have a very, very tough exam before you can be qualified as a taxi driver. So their hippocampus is very large. The hippocampus region in the brain of taxi drivers in UK is actually much larger than other people. It is above average, because they have trained their brain to look at things spatially so much that it has actually helped in regenerating that part of the brain. And there's a lot of studies. Yesterday I was seeing a TED talk about that, even in older people, fresh brain cells are being produced. So all these things are very peculiar for humans, and this needs to be understood when you're sitting down and writing software for human beings, for social interaction and all. Otherwise, we'll produce a very distorted software which is looking very glamorous. That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Awesome. I guess it was a very in-depth and very good conversation, and I guess we can end it. If somebody has any questions or somebody want to ask something regarding it, please come up on stage. Otherwise, we can end it. Rahul, if you want to
Yeah,
add to something.
thank you. Initially, I was hesitating because I always come up with these contra points. I don't. The last thing I want to do is to irritate anybody, you know. So, I hope you don't mind me talking like this. And I just feel that all you youngsters have got such a beautiful role to play in this world, you
No,
know.
I guess a lot of people. I agree to you in a lot of perspectives. There are many developers who don't understand the very sense and the very basics of why things are being done the way they are being done, and a lot of time what happens that we follow the trend in the industry, that if this particular menu has to be designed that way we do it, but we don't understand the psychology behind that design, which is being discovered or researched by some big team at somewhere, and we just copy paste it without understanding the very intentions behind it, the psychology, the reaction to it, how the UX design is like the most complicated and related, something related to how the behavior of human is, and that we a lot of time misregard it. So I can totally get it where the inspiration is coming, and I can totally understand it. I'm also gonna do a session at AICTE this 22nd or 21st. I still don't remember, but that is going to be with a lot of college faculties. So there are AICTE is a program where a lot of college faculty is gonna participate, and we're gonna talk to them about virtual reality. And I had a master class that how to get started with VR, and that is concept heavy. I talk about all these concepts, which I remember you said a lot of things about those concepts in the beginning of your talk one day, and I was got impressed that yeah, these are the exact same things I tell developers to start with this before building the actual apps, and that's how we perceive. So, however, this time the talk is going to be only 3 days. I'm not sure how I'm gonna pack the 7 day content into 3 day, but I'm gonna try my best. I'm sure it's going to be 2 day concept heavy and 1 day the practical work, which is like if you know the concept, the practical is gonna become really easy. So there's a 3 day session I'm gonna be doing at AICT, and yeah, I'll share the link on XRDA, but you can also be there and guide me if I'm wrong somewhere. So would love your attendance.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll see. I'm actually stuck in many different things.
Yeah, I can
So
totally
let's see.
understand. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I like your attitude. You have a balanced point of view to look at it. Because I sometimes dread coming up to speak because I speak very honestly and sometimes very bluntly without realizing that it may not be, I don't like to cater to popular opinions unless that popular opinion is also backed by something useful.
Yeah,
So I've done several.
even I agree
Yeah.
that there are a lot of bad use cases with VR for sure, but of course there are plenty of good stuff as well, which I would love to introduce to you someday as well, and you're gonna
Yeah,
find the
that's why.
value.
No, of course there is value. I'm not. I just told you, right? If you talk about medical applications, radiology, problems in broken bones and archaeology and many things, there are very useful values. When there are some bounded areas, even in machinery and all that, it has got some pretty useful use. But the thing is, unless these kind of topics get opened up, and honestly we start, scratching our head and saying that, okay, अभी ये हुआ, अगर समझो theoretically भी हुआ, तो कितना गलत हो सकता है, like, how bad will it get? That is a very important question, right? I mean, otherwise we'll end up repeating history of all kinds of things. अभी pollution आ गया, global warming आ गया, energy consumption आ गया, wars आ गया in the real world. Would you want all that to happen again in the internet world also?
I think about this a little differently. I think that if a trend has started, it has to go where it has to go. The more you get aware of it, or the more you take a control of it, you can guide it better than a lot of idiots who are driving the trends. So I guess I take more active
No,
participation.
no, no, I understand that everybody should. I'm not saying that by saying this, I am just I'm just one theoretician. मैं कुछ coding करता ही नहीं है, 3D किया ही नहीं है, VR किया ही नहीं है, ऐसा नहीं है ना. I'm not saying from that angle. I am saying that we need to understand how we get exploited. You know, there are so many nice Indian startups. All it happens is they become pilot project for somebody else.
That is another
So I would like to
topic
add
of
one
itself,
point here.
that how India is like following these pilot projects. Would love to talk about this someday.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Rahul, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Rahul,
was
go
saying
ahead.
that imagine if Hitler was on the today's social media and all. So if he hated someone, he could just block them instead of killing them. You know, that's the attitude we want. We want to bring disagreement sorting online, but without any violence.
Yeah, that's a big
I don't
honestness.
think
Maybe you
Hitler
should really
just gonna
understand
block.
what.
Yeah, I don't think Hitler is
No,
just
no.
I
gonna
know.
block, because I remember there was a recent blog about somebody made a Salman Khan game in which Salman Khan rash drivers and killed deer and things like that.
Salmon bhai.
And that
Salmon.
guy, Salman Khan didn't just block, he also removed the application. He also filed a case against him. Of course, the application was completely parody and everything. And I guess, but still, these time dictators don't just block, and they take action. That's why they are dictators.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
saying like I'm saying like whatever led to a person becoming a dictator, right? Maybe there was a lot of frustration that was building, and these virtual worlds could probably shed some of that frustration, so they don't become real
oh,
maniacs.
no. I think that is just wishful thinking. There are people are using this systems, especially after what happened in 2008. There was this huge financial crisis, and a lot of manipulations which society happened has happened after 2008. And there's a lot of very interesting research about this, which doesn't come very easily, but that is the way in many countries the right wing has become very popular because of those manipulations, and that manipulations is happening very much because of social media and all that. And now if you complicate it, and by giving 3D worlds and all that, and we are here sincere architects and software developers, happily talking about 3D, our work will be used to manipulate somebody else, man. And
So I
I'm not
think
talking it in any theoretical way. It is very much that's what Cambridge Analytica was all about.
no, I understand your view, but I think there's a disconnect between us, which we will sort out in the next conversation. All of
Yeah,
us
yeah,
will get
yeah. I mean,
together.
it is going beyond VR and AR. So that's what my worry is. I'm a divergent thinker, so I bring in a lot of different points of view. Also, then only it becomes mature. So the thing is, we need to be can't look at things only from the pinhole of a technology. ये पॉसिबल है, उसके वजह से मैं करना चाहिए, इज अ वेरी वेरी रिस्की थिंग. दैट इज व्हाट हैपेंड विद द कार्बोरेटर, राइट? वाई वाज द कार्बोरेटर इन्वेंटेड? अरे यार, ये अभी गाड़ी तो सिर्फ 22 किलोमीटर पर आवर चल रहा है, अभी मैं कार्बोरेटर डाले तो 35 से 45 किलोमीटर चलेगा. वाओ, व्हाट अ नाइस थिंग. In 1955 there was this crazy bloody car crash where some 75-80 people died in a rally, motor rally. Why? Because the cars are encouraged to go faster and faster. The designing of those rally tracks was not did not catch up properly. A lot of people died. It's a famous event, but how many of us really know about it? We don't, because वो सब गया, like.
I guess
Anyway,
I agree to you in a lot of ways. I guess when I look at the automation, how it's happening, it's basically stealing a lot of jobs. Of course, we can do and we can automate these small jobs like delivery boys and everything. But should we have to do it? I mean, if a delivery guy loses his job, what options do he's gonna get after it? He has to learn some new skills. It's gonna take some time. What's gonna happen in that particular
yeah,
amount of time to his family?
yeah, yeah. I think one serious book is written. I think it's called Bullshit Jobs, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yep.
there's an economist or a behavioral economist, if I remember right. I want to actually read that book. I heard about it on couple of TED talks where that book was discussed. And the problem which with us in society is that it. I have a slightly different position. It is not that there will not be any jobs. We'll end up doing some bullshit stuff, like, you know. And people will find their own weird ways to really look at when telephone was invented, and telephone exchanges were manual exchanges. Okay, like you have to, some a lady has to sit in front of that exchange, take the wire from one place and go and put it in another place. I mean, imagine living a life just plugging out the wire and plugging it back into another hole in that console over there. There was a very interesting situation which happened, it seems. I have to check whether it is correct or not. It's one of those internet memes, so it may not be correct. So there was this lady who was deliberately diverting the calls of her husband's competitor to somebody else through that telephone exchange. So that guy came to know that the wife of his competitor is doing this. So he ended up inventing the automatic exchange. So look at the weirdness of this whole thing, right? So when new things will come and new people say driverless cars aa gaya, drivers will be doing what will they do? It may not be as simple as that. They will start doing some bizarre things. That is even more dangerous because you don't know what those bizarre things would be. That is the problem.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that I agree with. Okay, so I guess we can end this talk. It's been
Yeah. We should. Yeah, thank
two
you.
and a half hours.
Oh, you must have been there for a long time. I just came in only about half an hour or so back.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for the time. Take care.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Sabuji. And we enjoyed the conversation a lot. We soon gonna discuss more about this topic. So yeah, stay tuned, guys.
Take
Bye,
care.
man.
Yeah, take care. Bye.
Thank you. All right.